What's a master who can't admit truth? I find it kind of ironic that you call your show The Way of the Master. Y'all want to attack little old me? Little old Graydon Square, huh? Hey, yo. Okay, check it. You have us wanting to attack? Well, baby, it's on, but it won't be a pretty sight like old ladies in thongs. You think we running and you dead wrong. We staying right here. Graydon Square's a fundamentalist Christian's nightmare. So who's right? None, they all is dead wrong. Unbelievably pig-headed, closed and headstrong. I bear alone, cause they ain't never gonna realize that Christianity has more holes in it than SpongeBob. But that's cool. Take it on blind faith as I promote Atheist Nation movies on MySpace. And don't hate, you funnies made it a success. It sucks less than that phony religion that sucks less. Now these Christians wanna try to reconvert me. Before that happened, I joined neo-Nazi Germany. So go ahead, murder me, bastard, cause I make atheists come out the closet faster than Ted Haggard. They gon' say that I lie, gon' say that I'm full of despise. They gon' say that I'm ruining lives instead of what they gon' say. Maybe you should listen to what they don't say.
Here I want to discuss a revisit of Nietzschean authorship feats. Modern Geniuses of the Modern World is the title of a fairly respectable documentary that you can find on YouTube, hosted by a woman who delves into controversial questions about the life and works of Friedrich Nietzsche. He's known for many influential books in the field of existentialism. Maybe even he is considered a person who helped existentialism become defined as a class of a school of philosophy. Now, there's books, titles by him include Twilight of the Idols, Esse Homo, Daybreak, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and The Antichrist, The Genealogy of Morals, he wrote a lot about a composer named Wagner. Let me think, what else is there? As far as, it's said to an extent that the Marquis de Sade was a Nietzschean influence. At least on the lines of some of his nihilistic thinking. Now, feel free, if you find him to be a controversial figure, as best as you have been taught, to check out this documentary. Geniuses of the Modern World is the title you would need to punch into YouTube in order to find this documentary. It's hosted by a fairly interesting, open-minded woman. The first point I would like to bring up and discuss concerns a manner in which he's been after death defamed. Because with Jesus being called a martyr, it's not like this hasn't happened before. So I'm just gonna morph my face into a swirl, then back to a negative, then back to red and blue, and now back to fuck. Yeah, that's to do. I'm wearing Omega Blue Forehead Cosmetics. Anyway, now I think stereotypes and associating people by stereotypes is unfair. Early on in my retail pharmacy career, I met a girl. She had a foreign accent and had come in the store asking for directions, eye drops, and someone else in the store had said to me, "Luke, the way she's talked to you, if she comes into the store a third time and you don't invite her to your birthday party, I will," he said. And so surely enough, she actually did come back a third time. And I gave her an invitation to my birthday. And beautiful friend she was. She actually rocked up to the party. It was at a Yarralumla wool shed, which my mother helped us to book out. And her name is Nadine, and she was from Berlin, visiting Canberra in Australia. She encountered some animosity during her travels simply because she was German. Some Australians were spitting on her, which, yeah, I think was certainly unfair. There's some things I think. I mean, it seems to be you're sort of run-of-the-mill German citizen. It's not like as these stereotypes go. It's not like they have they've all got a flamboyant right-wing like military pride for the historical military pride for Adolf Hitler. The sense I get is that as a culture they resent him in many respects. I'm no admirer of Hitler's military services. But yeah, I mean, one metaphysical quality of character that Hitler would speak of, that I don't think there was anything necessarily bad in the ideas, but it's what you take ideas and do with them, you know. I mean, I think you could even say that the some of the reasons that confessed, officiated and established criminals, when they speak of their reasonings, it's quite possible for people like you and I to listen and read about their reasonings and add them to reasons for our doubts. It's even possible to take ideas that criminals will cite as justification for their crimes, and to then take those same ideas and use them in a positive way. I'm not one who's inclined to have ever thought that there's ever any one. It's one thing about the police state mentality is like questions are framed in a way, like, obviously I understand in the adult world, policing and crime solving, I just wish they would use the words motives in the plural, and not this singular motive, because it just sounds too storybook. Like, we're all fans of Cluedo, and our watchers, our viewers and listeners on radio shows and the media, they want to know the motive, because that works well for a good story, and to me it's too Cluedo board game or Cluedo novels. Was it Colonel Mustard with the candlestick in the library? Paranamasia being what they are, neural pathways, neurons firing, and to think that just a single line of reasoning is enough to amount and account for heinous acts. I think it's almost like saying, well, at the time the crime was committed, we did a brain scan, and only one neural pathway seemed to be firing at the time they committed the crime. So, therefore, we have a motive. I think, I'm pluralist there when it comes to that. I would factor numerous, more than one cause where that happens. Now, and I mean, Hitler's a good example too in this sense, because if you study Mein Kampf, it seems that this part, in the earlier part of his military career, he was he's crediting, he's calling himself Christian. I am convinced, he writes, that I am doing the work of the Creator, and by fighting off the Jews, I am doing the Lord's work. You'll find in more or less those precise words, statements, in Mein Kampf from Hitler. Now, and then you get into later in his military career. So while already a big deal, and after having already killed so many Jews, my grandfather actually traveled and told me of an experience of his where he felt very sad during his travels, and found an abandoned former chamber. He once recited this story to me of actually just stepping inside one for a moment and closing his eyes and trying to imagine what the horrors of that time were like. And he said it was a disturbingly emotional thing for him. But for me, I have taken some, as a philosopher, I'm not so much into military history and, Winston Churchill and stories of war and glory, be they where our country won or other countries won, and but certainly when writers, interesting thinkers and artists are slammed as the cause or inspiration for reprehensible and heinous behavior. I find those sorts of controversies interesting to investigate. I always like to see if the journalistic sources are religious or answering to, trying to score points of approval and career promotions from, some religious zealot. Because yeah, and it goes all the way from, you know, back to me, you know, contending as a kid with questions of why playing violent video games is to never have any compromise of my personal morals. I was never happy with the term make-believe being used by others to sort of describe art. I took an early life fascination with horror films. I liked, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street and It by Stephen King, and yeah, I mean, knowing as you know, when you go to the primary school library at Fadden Primary, as I did, you learn of genre and classification of literature, and you know, the fiction and non-fiction are the, you know, that's the dichotomy. It's a dichotomy there, so you obviously know what fictions are, and I always preferred the term fiction to make believe, because well, my arguments for that developed as I got older, but and I learned about moral categories of thought, subjective and objective moral awareness, prescriptive and descriptive moral distinctions, moral relativism, questions like, can objective morality be possible? Does God belief need to be recognized as the only source by which a person can cultivate a moral awareness with integrity? This is my shirt. I also don't believe in Yoda. It's I'm just watching Mishmash D'Souza, Dinesh D'Souza, the theologian, indicting what he calls the horrible war crime atheist regimes of the 20th century. Now, he names Hitler amongst his number. If you want to find two cited influences of Hitler's throughout his regime, you'll find Nietzschean references in the later part of his career, and you'll find throughout Mein Kampf regular invokings of Jesus Christ, with specific references in Mein Kampf by Hitler to how Jesus rose victorious and showed them Juden, who was a boss, essentially. Forgetting that Jesus was a Jew himself, and also forgetting or paying no attention to that Mark verse, Matthew, Luke, and John distinction that I think is crucial to interpreting the New Testament. Mark's Gospel has no such account in its original form of a resurrection, so there was no rising victorious for Jesus to teach those stupid Jews, as Hitler would think of them. In Mark's original Gospel account, the one of which the other three were inspired, if not directly plagiarized, Jesus dies and does not rise again. At no point in Hitler's regime does he remove Gott mit uns, or God is with us, from the belt buckles of the Nazi soldiers. So then that only leaves Nietzsche. You hear him invoking ideas of the Nietzschean Superman. Man is something that should be overcome. What have you done to overcome him? Behold, I teach you the Superman. That's the Nietzschean teaching, the Übermensch, or the Overman. And so you'll hear Dinesh talk about that, and Hitler thinking about that. Hitler misconstrued Nietzsche's Übermensch, which was a metaphor for the overcoming of the individual at an individual's level, to mean let's overcome Jewish people and put them in gas chambers. It's very different to what Nietzsche was thinking about. He wasn't into any sort of national socialism or any anti-individualist thinking. At no point did he remove the words "God is with us." God is with us from his belt buckles. If they had been Nietzschean belt buckles, they would have said God is dead. So Hitler must have been pooped on or something.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a student. My question is sort of a clarifying question for both sides.
This might be complicated for Roger Toll to comprehend because, admittingly, Adolf Hitler did not live during the glorious pinnacle and uprising of the historically underappreciated Mason Church of the Freemasons, the GST Freemasons. So who knows? If Hitler had been around in the 16th century, then maybe the Freemasons could try and use Hitler as an example of why they shouldn't die to unbelievers. Of course, that's the secret Freemasons. All they've really had is unbelievers. Even the Christians haven't shown them the Given how superficial Gary and Roger have been, I wouldn't be surprised if if Hitler wrote Lucifer with us on the belt buckles, then what would he be? A persecuted Freemason with a micro penis who liked getting pooped on? Yeah, nice one, Gary and Roger. You're really onto something really clever there. Yeah. You've overwhelmed me philosophically. Whoa! I just had a religious experience. I am now a Freemason. Except there seems to be something's taking control of. Whoa! Is that a... Sorry, my finger moved uncontrollably at the Freemason Church. Damn. Sorry. When I said when I mused upon the statement uttered by Gary Cairns at Capital Campus, he would say, "I do my best work in the dark," and that means I can wake up and say more insightful, philosophical, and historical things than. But it means for Gary Cairns that he'll join Roger Toll in, PEDs for research purposes only. Just join them in their little lab playing poofters. I've only known of one type of male who doesn't need to get their kicks from spying on other males and violating their privacy. Who go into fall asleep and dream of girls. Gary and Roger aren't two of those men. There's no female deity in the Masonic Church. I once held out hope for them that the all-seeing eye of the law might have been a poetic euphemism that they modernized and likened to the vagina, but Gary and Roger are far off that. They have each other, they have their lab, they have jerking each other off, and pulling their socks up high, That's a very important display of their masculinity.
Matthew Chapman, is the advance of atheism actually a bit of a retreat? Sadly, I don't see.
You're not a real man till you can pull your socks up like I don't know what it's like. I don't know like what. I'd say pantyhose, but I don't want to be construed as sexist. And I don't want to compliment Gary and Roger when I needed you. And one of their tricks, the Freemasons' tricks, is the two that own the Capital Chemist Group, is attempts to contact you using voice. They have that deep voice software, I think, whether it's that brand or maybe they have the less expensive brand. But they'll try to contact you in impersonating the voices of your favorite celebrities or the most authoritative figures in Australia politically or the UK politically. And you obviously know that it's a deception because you can actually see in their minds that it's an exciting prospect to them, because they can never, in their religious mind, they can never make the devil, even their deities, exist. They're really stupid, really religiously stupid. So it's that effect where the person believes in some bullshit, but they won't confront that they believe in bullshit. So that in their behaviors, they're constantly, repeatedly caking on one deception on top of another. And that's what they do. And yeah, this sort of, you see, if you've ever gone to a Capital Chemist staff conference, and Gary Cairns will dress up like the singer from Kiss, the one with the star on his eye. I don't even really remember the names of the band Kiss, but most of the women I spend time with, when it comes to talking about noteworthy rock artists, Kiss are recognized to be amongst the most gayest rock band ever to have existed. And I used to really enjoy picking on Christian theism as my favorite form of theism to falsify and to argue and contest against. But from what I've learned over the years, the Freemasons aren't far behind. They are really, really gay. The Church of Satan actually puts them to shame with what it teaches. Happy evening, everyone. Just for the first time now in a while, as I'm trying to put weight on, this is I couldn't find fillet steak, so this was the least fat and no bones steak fillets I could find. And I'm having mac and cheese. Macaroni and cheese as well. And on my steak I like to always add soy sauce and chili sauce. Some problems were found and fixed on my video drive. Looks like it's fixed. Yeah, Silverside and fillet steaks best. I don't like steak with fat or bone. I just think it's healthier. But they're probably done, and my apartment is now tidy. Table's tidy. Some junk there on the sofa. That is all. What?
Take a photo of it. Whoa. Hi YouTube, I'm here today on Friday with Tash and Nige, two lovely neighbours of sorts. Nigel is the local G-banger. He sees a new chick every week.
Alright, yep.
And Tash is, she knows quite a bit about certain lines of spirituality, but I think she has a wise approach to not become too fanatical about any of that, which I've always admired, because I think that's a rule for any sort of philosophy. But hello, Tash.
Hi, how's it going?
And so, what else was I going to say? Here we are. We're at a group shot.
Oh, you're lost for words.
All right. Well, we're at Tilly's, so we're also going to promote Tilly's. It's behind me. That's Tilly's. It's a fantastic cafe slash bar slash restaurant. I recommend the squid. It costs $20. And it comes with salad. So anyway, thanks for your time, Tash and Nige.
Oh yeah.
Take care.
Bye, YouTube.
Pilscar long stocking is coming on the face of your town. So my physically disabling pain is normal. Well, it's normal for physically disabling pain. Hi. Have a nice day. It's recording a blog thing. Some natives laughing at me. The next step is quitting smoking. I have had skull fracture from kicks to the head from a neighbour. Which I had CT scans to follow up, and I posted on my Facebook, I think, some details from that report. And I think it was the week before last. I was waiting for my morning pain relief to kick in, and another different neighbour punched me here in the left side. Punched me in the face, and because the pain relief hadn't kicked in, just as I was punched, I was able to differentiate between my own headache and the pain of getting punched in the face. So it was like a bit of a distraction. Something similar to that happened when I didn't want to be turning to pharmaceuticals, but it's a little nicer to not go to Capital Chemist stores. So it feels a bit like getting a finger in the ass, in a pejorative fashion. Going back to the Capital Chemist shops, quite. So there's still one or two pharmacists from the eras of my work for them who I will say hello to still, but I have 9 enemies as it stands. From that part of my life, and so it's just not enjoyable for me at all to go to those stores. So I went today to Priceline and saw a woman called Sarah, who I used to work with as a technician at the Canberra Hospital some years ago. Actually last decade, but she looked well, and I said hello and we had a chat. Oh, and yes, also there is a group of African men and women that live in some of the units closer to the driveway to the unit complex, and they invited me to drink with them while they were dancing, and then one of them also punched me in the same place in the face. So I've put some stitches here just to symbolically commemorate the beating. And then there's the scars on this hand, which are healing. This hand has scars too, and this tooth was chipped from a fall on the ground.
You can see it there. Usually the bottom of this tooth was a little bit rounder and came down a little further than this tooth. So now this one's chipped, but they're even length. So it's like, I felt that it was chipped when I hit like bricks like that. Fell straight onto bricks like that, and I am impressed though that now they're even length. So it's like saying I went to the cementist instead of the dentist. And it's free to go to the cementist. You just fall into some cement, apply the tooth from your head as you're falling into the cement, and pass out and get woken up by and come to from a couple of ambulance men who pick you up and then let you go upon on your way. So the service at the cementist, there's no waiting room as such. It's free. There's no need for Medicare claims or rebates, so I don't feel like I'm mooching, you know. Yeah. I'm equally distressed and impressed with the cementist. I think if it was any shorter, I would be pissed off. Anyway. What are we, 5 minutes 21. That's me on disabling pain and getting bashed, and then wondering if you should get them charged or not. But like I said, these nine adversaries of mine I need to deal with. I'm thinking too much about how to deal with them. That is my priority. So it's beatings per minute in some respects here in the residency. What other filters does this have? No, this black and white one was the best choice. Let's, whoa. What the fuck? Fuck. Swirly. Alright. I'm done.
Really? Fuck you.
So my 3 favorite albums for the present time. I'm having a real great time just slowly absorbing the permutations of the following 3 albums. Firstly, I would draw attention to Black Star, the final album from Bowie. And I still have my moments of sadness for the loss of Bowie. It's actually inspired me to rethink and change the arc on a book I've been working on over a number of years, which I've called Paradox Atheos. It's about I'm essentially going to try to argue that there is more meaning to be found if we assess philosophy's most prominent concepts through the godless lens, the natural, theistically absent, or absence of theism, godless framework with which we had from birth. Christianity and the monotheistic and polytheistic religions that all have an omnimax God are having out a birthright, I think. So yeah, but I've decided to say more about art and the power of art in my book, and I also want to make some chapters that are in credit to Bowie. His loss is obviously going to be the beginning of a wave of sadness amongst those in defense of the bisexual rights movement. So I'm thinking more about that and how that's going to impact the final result of the book. So Black Star, I watched the music video to the actual song Black Star fairly regularly. And yeah, saying bye to Bowie in my own way was very sad, but I can't fault the impressive geniusness that he possessed. So then the second album, which I have been promoting everywhere, is Heaven Upside Down by Marilyn Manson, his 10th studio album. And I love both of the clips with Johnny Depp in them, Satan and Kill For Me, a song about writing, I think. Then and then the third album is Black Labyrinth by Jonathan Davis from Korn. And you know, I was very impressed in 2007 when he did Alone I Play. I think it was with the SFD. Yeah, it's with another band, it's a solo works, as is this new album Black Labyrinth, and he addresses, or rather expresses his own contentions with organized religion in this album quite a bit, as well as health, concepts of health, and gender. There's a song called Gender on the album, which I think is brilliant. So yeah, they're the three albums that I would encourage anyone to check out. Black Star by Bowie, Heaven Upside Down by Marilyn Manson, and Black Labyrinth by Jonathan Davis. I can't play them enough. For me, a lot of art takes time to I spend ages interpreting and that's one of the beautiful things about art, interpretation.
Good morning, dear and beloved viewers of Luke Banton's Deterioration webisode series. The weekend is here, and I'm doing some brainstorming as to what directions to take the channel or the website series in. At the moment there's been sort of a fast, I'd say, given how long the output of episodes is fairly fast, and that's because before I was sure about how things were going to go in terms of format and setup, I didn't learn that I was going to be confined to 59-minute and 59-second episodes at the max. So so I had a bulk, sort of a bunch of files pre-made, well, or more or less ready to go once I had web connections back again. But yeah, then I learned I'd have to trim them into more or less 50-minute segments. But then I decided to start like inserting sketches and little random bits and pieces here as the episode progresses. Add the titles, add the title credits, add little, you know, random advertisements and things like that. Yeah, just the former employer stuff is it's a bit of an ongoing beef, and I didn't get the luxury of expressing my side of that account to you know, authoritative folk here. So the channel will have my take on that biz as for the most part. Yeah, so what we've had so far has been, yeah, pretty much a mix of you know, my answer to the Nietzschean paragraph in the Antichrist. He said man should not deck out and embellish Christianity as waged war on the greatest of man's instincts. Who are our enemies? He writes, and I'd ask you to take this poetically, but theologians and anyone who has theological blood in their veins. This is our whole philosophy. And why I like his attitude is that he's trying to say, I think, you know, how many of you have had a religious person try to interest you in their sense of conversational logistics? It's something achieved more with with speaking in a certain tone of voice than I think it is with particular key points and arguments, and, you know, having the humility to say, well, sir, ma'am, you or dude, chick, you certainly bowled me over in that debate. I think I respect you, and I've learnt from this, and you know, many Christian apologists are in the business of that, and my observation is that it's because whatever their commitment to accept Jesus Christ as Lord or Saviour, and we already know they're a bit corked on the subject of God. The God in the Christian Bible, you know, Marquis de Sade said, well, Geoffrey Rush said, playing the Marquis de Sade, the movie Quills, you know, he strung up his own son like a side of veal. I'd shudder to think what he'd do to me. All the questions about why was this Son of God necessary? Why was his death necessary for some chapter of God's plans? And that bears back to arguments about us being fallen creatures since the fall from the Garden of Eden in Genesis, because Eve ate an apple. Given all the anti-sexual rules of Christianity and the Bible, you would find it interesting then that, you know, they decided to make the original sin the apple eating, and not the fact that if Adam and Eve were the first male and female, and they had a bunch of they had a bunch of sons and a bunch of daughters, then when it came time for generation 3, they could only have come about through the inbreeding of that first wave of sons and daughters. So I would think of that as the original sin, and bad creating from God. Like, can't you like make sure that they're unrelated before they're fucking each other to term, like having babies? That to me is more of an original sin than did that naked woman eat an apple in the garden? Shit. I was talking with an Aboriginal friend of mine, and we were comparing like I was comparing the Christian's biblical account of origins with the Aboriginal rainbow serpent, and in the dream time, the Aborigines have this kind of mythological rainbow serpent, and I was thinking that I think the Aboriginals would clean up if they debated Christians, Bible-believing Christians, on this whole rainbow serpent thing, because the rainbow serpent's got two major perks on the snake in the Garden of Eden, which we're told was Satan in a snake form. But you know, the Aborigines could quite easily say as key selling points over the prestige of so-called prestige of Genesis and the Holy Bible, and they could say, well, you know, no, the rainbow serpent does not give a fuck how many apples you eat. That's their first point. And they could say point two, yes, the rainbow serpent would prefer it if you know, Adam and Eve's children didn't fuck each other and make babies. So I think the Aborigines would they would fare well in such debates. Yeah, I'm wearing somewhat of a silver face today. My neighbor Claire had her Marvel comics out. They were really old, like 1970s Marvel, with the Silver Surfer, and just the drawing is just so antique. It was cool to see. Okay, 8 minutes. I suppose before I think of what other new material to include, I mean, so we've had it as a recap. We've had me talking a bit about, in philosophy at least, I've talked about atheism. Well, I've talked first about ways in which the deconstruction of biblical Christianity and Christian theism, as it has been taught to us, it's not only, I think, wise. I just don't think this idea of a supernatural dimension, like the word, think about the logistics of the word supernatural to begin with. Like, that means it's beyond or extra to or transcendent of the natural world. So like you should be getting introduced to all these new concepts then that don't have anything to do with nature, and that can only be explained in a going beyond of nature. Okay, Adam and Eve having children that fuck each other, or that fuck Eve because they were male sons, that's inbreeding. That is not supernatural. That is it's like contranatural, countervening nature, anti-natural. People have said that maybe talking this way is a little harsh, and that maybe for the very, very first. But these seem to be like people that are trying to cross-connote evolutionary theory with a prospective openness to a genesis in some kind of way. And I just don't think it works. Like, wait till we get the proof. I'm not settling for those conversations where people want to walk around and go, oh, well, who cares if there was some inbreeding at the start? I do. I really do. And there's the precept of suspending judgment until better evidence is revealed later. Not like pick a holy book of your choosing and believe in it now, and you know all its embarrassing underpinnings and overtones. I think, but yeah, we've had me colliding with some of the dogmas of the Christian faith, and then I believe. I understand. I then moved on to with splices of little sketches, and I worked on the titles for the episodes. We've had me talking about atheism, what atheism means to me, atheism from my perspective. We've had talk about this collision, doing battle with the Freemasons, which I think I'll get further than John Safran, because he tried to get into the Freemason church and get secrets out of the secrets of the Freemasons in the John Safran vs. God series, and I've gone further than that, so I'm happy with that. I found out why they might be so secretive, and one reason I can clearly give now is that once you know what their theology is, Freemasonry stands the charge of being like the polar opposite to, just as Roger Toll is as a scientist is like the polar opposite to Galileo. I think that Freemasonry itself is like the polar opposite to theistic Christianity. Yeah, so Christianity, atheism, Freemasonry. I've had splices of music videos, I've had interviews and sketches with neighbours, and I'm going to try to make, once I've gone through and exhausted this raw, all this raw footage on topics of philosophy, maybe by the time I get to episode 20, all that will be covered. But you know, if you would like to, if you have any ideas for Deterioration you would like to see me, you know, work into the show, feel free to leave messages on the YouTube channel. If you are unable to leave messages on the YouTube channel, because it's quite possible there are some problems with it at the moment in certain little ways, so if you can't contact me through there, if you can look up Luke Banton on Facebook, and if you add me as a friend and mention you know that you found me on Facebook because of your experience on the YouTube channel, then I pretty much would probably add you to Facebook and we can discuss what you want to discuss further there. I only really use Instagram, Facebook and YouTube at the moment. We've touched on Big Pharma, and so I'm looking to now later today talk a bit on controversies in the rise of existentialist philosophy, and that's a topic where I've literally had 40-minute. I was going to stop saying literally. I've digitally had 40-minute segments where I've spoken on things like controversies like Friedrich Nietzsche and Adolf Hitler, and what was the nature of that beast, or that blemish in bad historical journalism. So yeah, you know, this webisode series and the channel is for the people that subscribe and that watch the material. So it's not for me. I don't subscribe to the channel, and it's still recommended that absolutely no one watch the show at all, of course, because all characters are depicted fictitiously. Any resemblance between a character on my YouTube channel and on Deterioration and anyone in reality, no matter how real the person, the fictional character on YouTube is, based on it, they're fictitious depictions. You should not watch it. But 15 minutes. Yeah, so 15:40. I'll be back a little later.